People skills are absolutely important. I recommend watching the video by Hank Paulson. It's the People Skills That Matter. It's a nice little video. I worked with many people in my life. Many of these people enjoyed working with me. Some of them loved working with me, and they told me about it. Actually, they became my mentors. These are experienced people who were usually my bosses. I was very honest with them. I was always myself. There were a few, not even a handful, one or two that didn't enjoy working with me. I don't usually mention them. They have the right to not enjoy working with me. And it's good that I know that, and I know my limits with them. Almost as important as what you do is who you do it with. That's how Hank Paulson put it. People skills are absolutely important, and the people around you are absolutely important. I like to say it as who you work with is as important as what you work on. These people will be with you more than your family many a times, and enjoying them, enjoying who they are, enjoying how they act, and having similarities, core similarities, is important. Now, of course, diversity is also important, and many people that you work with will be completely different than you, and that's okay because they open your mind to things that you're not normally comfortable with. Running something versus working with clients. Think about it this way. Are you running the project in your day-to-day life, or are you working with clients, working with your peers, working with your customer or with your consumer? People skills, and if you keep people skills in mind and keep it in your culture and keep people in your culture, you'll know that you're always working with someone. You're not just running a thing. Career engineers are quite interesting people. There's people that plan the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years until retirement. That's usually a little bit difficult. They don't know it until they get older. You want to plan, but move with the flow. Do what you have to do now and do it well. Don't do many things mediocre. Learn to concentrate your effort. That, of course, also includes family. Don't leave your family behind. They won't enjoy it. You have to give them their fair share as well. What do you enjoy? Know if you like working for someone else. And that if that's okay for the rest of your life, you enjoy it, that's a wonderful thing. And in fact, that's the majority of people. But if you enjoy managing others, remember that they are people, and the way you treat them is absolutely important. It affects the way they work, the output of their efforts, and you want to make sure that you work with them appropriately. It doesn't mean that you always need to be best friends or family members. In fact, many times you need to be the exact opposite of that. But you need to manage appropriately. We all say we like change, but in reality we hate it. As human beings we hate it, and usually the older we get, the more we dislike change, because we've become accustomed to things. The world is changing and the pace of its change is increasing. We need to embrace change. We don't have to love change. We need to embrace it and know that it's coming and be able to move and pivot along with it. We need to understand work-life balance. It's not just, of course, the family, and I mentioned the family earlier. There's also the aspects of you, knowing what your mental ability needs to do for recharging. You need to understand that maybe watching TV 3 hours a day is not a work-life balance. Maybe that's something that's stressing you out, and many other things that you're doing are stressing you out additionally, so you want to avoid those things. People will not treat you well for a crisis averted. Right? The counterfactual events that occur in your life are quite interesting. Essentially, it's something that's relating to something that didn't happen. So essentially, for Paul, bailing out of the banks in 2008, most people say that was the worst thing. And he says, if we didn't bail them out, and the whole thing would have crashed, the whole system would have crashed, then people would have been saying that's the worst thing that could have happened. But since he averted the major crisis by creating a minor crisis, or at least increasing the debt, people say you didn't really do anything. They don't give them credit for the crisis that was averted. Network with people skills is important. It's good to have a large network, not overly large. A manageable large network is probably to go after it. Who you know is important. How much you know them is important. How long you've known them is important. How much they trust you, which is a factor of how much you know them and how long you've known them for. How de-risked is the relationship is really related to how much they trust you. The more they trust you, the less risk they feel in the relationship. How much can you influence them? Meaning that when you tell them something, do they believe in your process, or do they at least believe that you've given it thought and you're not just spewing the first thing that comes to mind? And then one of the ways to actually increase your network is serve on organizations with other people that you believe are important to you. And there's going to be a separate video that says, what do you need for your big project or your startup? What type of people do you usually need? the network, there's bad ways about a network, is that how much do people owe you? First of all, you don't want to really think that way. How much do people owe me purely? But know that when you've done things for others, they're more likely to do things for you. And so it's bad to purely think about how much people owe you. It's good to actually have all these other things built up, knowing people for a long time and working with them. But know that it's important to do things for others. There is no such thing as a perfect relationship. Keep that in mind. Whether it's in personal, it's in business, or anything else. The truth is, you want to do stuff together. When you're if you're the employer, you want to do things with your employees. If you're the employee, you want to do things with your peers. And if it's your life, so for me and my wife, for instance, we try to do things together. We try to go to events together. We try to work volunteering together. We go to church together, eat breakfast together. There are certain events that we do that help us manage our lives together. So we spend a minimum a certain set of time together.